All right, here we go. Welcome everybody to our Dangerous Women Artist Talk with artist Palmer Earl and Elisa Johns. Thank you. You know, it's, no, I mean, thank you, Palmer. I mean, this is such an amazing project, and thank you, Elisa, for hosting the project. So before we get into kind of a Q&A and, you know, more of a conversation, I wanted to show a couple of images. So that way people kind of have an idea of what we're talking about, what the project is.
Good idea.
So actually, yeah, I'm gonna share my screen, and then Palmer, if you just kind of wanna explain for a second what we're looking at as I go through the images.
Sure, these are sketches that I did early on. Once I decided that I would make her 5 windows into stained glass windows, I decided I wanted to pick the 5 dangerous women from the Old Testament. And these are my initial sketches on tissue paper. Underneath is pencil.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they're made of 3 pieces of MDF, and I screwed them together, and there's the rays of light from the face are there's nothing behind them. In this one, this was taken outside of my garage. The only place I had to put them all together. Yeah.
And then
there they are in the building, in Lisa's studio.
I think I have a couple from outside and a couple behind the scenes shots.
Oh yeah.
And we could talk more about that when I ask the Q&A. All the fun behind the scenes.
The crazy tracks I had to fill in.
Yep. And I love these night shots.
Yeah, I didn't really get a good shot of it, but there was a cop car blocking off the entire street. That's why there's the blue and red light underneath.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. But I didn't want to put that in because I felt, I don't know, I didn't want to make Inglewood look bad.
Yep. Cool. Okay, I think that is it. We can always come back and look at them again. Yeah, once we're over. And I'm gonna go ahead and actually there's only a few of us, so I was gonna spotlight, but we're good. So I wanted to, I have a few questions for each of you individually, and then a couple for both of you. So before we kind of start about the project, actually, would you both kind of just introduce yourselves and say who you are and what you do, and just kind of a short little bio? Palmer, go ahead.
I'm Palmer Earl. I paint just with acrylic on canvas and sometimes collage. I paint, right now I'm focusing on how ancient cultures affected how women are treated today in our culture. And all my paintings are pretty much about my experience as a woman. And I've known Elisa for a long time. We were actually roommates in Florence at an art school for a semester. So that's how we met when I was 18.
Oh, cool.
It was awesome.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's great.
It's really fun.
Yeah.
Now we both live in LA. So I'm originally from New York.
Were you in New York at the time that you went to Florence?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It was her gap year and my junior year of college.
Yeah. So I was 18 and everyone else was 20.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you, Palmer.
Yeah.
And Elisa.
So I'm Elisa Johns. I've been painting, I don't know, in LA probably early 2000s. Had my studio in Inglewood that whole time. Shown in different galleries here. I mainly do.
And in New York.
Yes, I've always been in New York right now. Yes, I have a gallery in New York as well. Mainly paint, I guess, figurative work, more recently landscape, although I've done work kind of in the same vein of Palmer's work. I did for years, a bunch of historical female figures and mythological figures. So we have that connection. It's been interesting to see how our work kind of comes together in certain junctures, and then we sort of take the content and show it in different ways.
Oh, cool. And so what are you working on now?
I've mainly been working on a series of landscape paintings of the Sierra Nevadas. I did a window project as the first one just to try it out and see what it would look like. That was of Mount Whitney, that I kind of thought of as my ode to California during the pandemic, and which is kind of a fun, I've always been sort of inspired by Japanese screen paintings. And so I did it on vellum, and it was kind of backlit, and it was just a different experience.
Constantly hiking in the mountains, so she has lots of material.
Oh, that's great. Which, you know, I mean, talking about the pandemic and everything that we've been dealing with, you know, how has the pandemic, and this question's for both of you, how has the pandemic shaped you both kind of as an artist, both personally and universally? Has anything changed in your art practice or things that you've seen?
Do you want to go?
I feel like, at least for me, I've had moments where I'm super productive and the moments where I haven't been at all. And it's been a real up and down. Normally my practice, or I would be in the studio most days from like 9 to 5, like a normal work day. It's definitely changed, having my daughter at home, having my husband's a teacher, so he's on calls all day long. And it's been kind of a mix of trying to figure out when to be in the studio, to have her with me in the studio. And my productivity has kind of been all over the place.
Yeah, I'm sort of the same. When it first happened, I was just so shocked by the whole thing, and just hearing about people dying and more every day. I had a really hard time even being in the studio, because everything I did just seemed so trivial, and I just couldn't wrap my head around it. But then after a while, I felt like it was kind of life affirming, because I realized that I'm so lucky that I'm not the sick one, and that, you know, as long as I'm alive, I should do what I do. And I'm a painter, and so I just had a new zest for what I do, I guess, and just being glad that I'm still able to do it. But also time management, like I've had to, like Elisa, I have kids also, so I've had to sort of switch around. Like usually I would do some of my research in my daytime when the kids are at school, but now I'm doing it at night after they're asleep, because I don't have time in the day, and just less studio time. So when I do it, I have to be like really focused.
I know the pandemic has changed so much for, you know, all of us, as far as thinking about the type of work that we're doing, thinking, you know, like you said, time management and schedules and routines. And I know personally, I've, you know, gone through the same thing. So I totally understand.
And it's crazy to think that a year ago, I mean, I remember driving to Inglewood in the beginning, and I'm in my own like office space right now, so I felt pretty safe going there, but there was no one on the street. And it sort of felt scary that everything was closed. I'd like, should I be here? Is this okay? And now, I mean, I guess even in the last 8 months, probably, it seems like there's been more and more foot traffic, everything's open, but for a while it felt super weird, like apocalyptic to be there. There'd be buses going by with nobody on them, whereas normally, you know, I'm on a busy corner, there's tons of people around. So it's crazy what's happened in the course of a year.
Yeah, I miss the clean air. You know, for what? The first month, yeah. Yeah, and I live right by a freeway, and I could tell early on there were hardly any cars on it.
Yeah, and now it feels back to normal, and there's traffic all times of the day now, whereas before, so it's interesting.
I've heard that traffic's gotten worse.
It does kind of feel like that a little.
So, I mean, talking about traffic, you know, and like where your studio is, tell us about the window art project, Elisa. Elisa, I'm sorry, is it Elisa?
Yeah. Yes, Elisa. Okay. So, I mean, it's something that I moved studios probably 6 months before the pandemic, and I'd always been with like a group of artists. So I had connection to people who are out in the world doing things. And when I moved studios, I'd made a point to do studio visits, and then the pandemic happened, and I thought, how can I stay in contact? And this seemed like a good idea as a way to connect with artists, but I could give them my key, they could install something, we could be COVID safe and share stuff. But it took a while to get going. I mean, honestly, like, I felt like I was depressed for a while. It was a struggle to get stuff done, but talking to Palmer, talking to Renee Fox, and just some different like local artists, it kind of grew, and I've kind of just keep trying to push forward to find more artists, talk to people, see who wants to do what. And the community's been super supportive. The man who runs the downstairs shop, DJ, it's like a little buddy of mine, kind of watches out for me, and he loves it. And he's always asking, who's next? Was that your girlfriend that was here installing this weekend?
Yeah, true.
Oh, that's great.
So it's been good. And I've actually, I mean, with Palmer's piece, I can't see out my window.
Yeah,
so
sorry about that. It's really dark in there.
So I can't tell who's photographing it, but with Renee's, I could see like local people in the street taking pictures of the street sign to like tag it. And it was nice. And I know DJ's told me people have come by and commented on Palmer's work. So that's great.
Oh, that's great. You know, early in the pandemic, there were several like artist groups and artists who did outdoor, you know, installations and drive-up shows. And so, you know, we, especially during the pandemic, we really, artists have been resilient and adaptable and figured out new and different alternative ways to present their art. And, you know, I mean, you're right along with that. You know, it's really fantastic.
And I love that everyone's had their own interpretation of how the windows work. And I love that Palmer's is the stained glass, and the colors are very vibrant. And I think that it's very old glass that's in those windows anyway. So it kind of gives this reflective, like not ancient, but like older looking, like it's reminiscent of stained glass. And I think one of the windows kind of has a crack through it. So you kind of see, I mean, it looks very like authentic in that way.
Oh, cool. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So let's see. Elisa, have there been any challenges associated with the window? I know, you know, you've talked to your neighbors and they love it, and they've seen a lot of people taking photos, but like, have you had any challenges?
I mean, I guess only in that I'm totally new to the idea of curating and thinking about that. And I've tried to reach out to a handful of people that I know are, you know, curated, Renee Fox being the main person that was kind of my touchstone on how many people do I reach out to at a time? How do I find new artists? How do I schedule shows? And especially since it's so site specific, trying to figure out how many people do I invite to do this? And then can they make work in this time frame? And how do I manage all of that? It's all super new. That's probably been my biggest struggle of like, I don't want to overextend, but I also want to I would love to have it keep going and have people showing work continuously in the space.
Definitely.
So that's totally new to me, and I'm kind of figuring that out as I go along.
I like how you, at least so far, it seems like it's going to be a mostly women artists for this project, which I think is really cool also.
That's all.
That's great. I didn't know that. So I love that idea. Very cool.
Yes, I guess I thought that the pandemic, it seems like women have mainly been more affected in terms of like having to give up careers or having to give up aspirations to be at home. And it seemed like maybe a good time to focus. So I've primarily only invited women artists at this point. Although at some point, maybe I open it up to more projects.
Definitely, definitely. I know, you know, I had kind of mentioned a couple of other projects that happened early in the pandemic, but did you have any models or any like influences or inspiration for, you know, having a window project where people don't have to go in, but they can see it from outside?
I mean, I guess early on there was that, I guess it was called Drive by LA. And then I know Sydney Croskery was a handful of artists I knew who put pieces up like on fences and in different spaces. And I loved the idea. And I mean, I've always thought I have this window looking out over Manchester, and it feels like something should be there. Like when I first moved in, a studio friend of mine was like, you need to put a pole and people can dance in the window. I mean, it just feels like a space for some kind of performative something. So this seemed like a good
Did Kelly say that?
Yes, it was.
Well, you know, I mean, it goes like right along with, I don't know if you've been to Helm's Bakery in Culver City. They have a video art project.
Ignite, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. And
I hadn't known about it, but when I talked to Renee, she was like, you should look at that. And that gave me the idea to backlight and do the first piece that I did on vellum.
Yeah, perfect. And then of course, Palmer's piece with the lights, which you could talk about in a few minutes. But early, gosh, I guess it's been like 10, 12 years ago. I'm here in the Arts District in LA. Ken Marciano, who's married to Kim Abelese, they had a window out their studio that went on to Traction right in the Arts District. And he put a screen with a video. And so, I mean, it's, you know, why not? You know, I mean, I think what you did is so great.
And I think there's somebody in West Adams maybe that has like a wall that they let people paint.
Oh,
forget who, somebody's studio, and they kind of just do like a rotating mural on it. So
yeah, I know Kenny Sharp may be around there somewhere. And
he's right down. He bought a building next to where my old studio was, but very close. I mean, he's still on Market Street, so
yeah.
I only moved a block away.
Oh, okay. I mean, Inglewood is like this burgeoning community, this burgeoning art community. It's wonderful to see. Yes. I've done the Inglewood Open Studios before with, like, you know, Beacon Arts Building and 10 Nights West and, you know, the individual artist studios. It really is a creative community.
Definitely.
Yeah. So Palmer, let's talk a little bit more specifically about the artwork itself. You know, what is the concept of Dangerous Women, and especially in relationship to the rest of your work, and how did you come up with the idea for the window?
Well, in my work, I do a lot of research about ancient cultures, like even as far back as like 20,000 BC. I'm mostly interested in finding out about women's lives and how women were viewed through various cultural contexts, like religions and texts and philosophies. And so I kind of am moving up closer to year one, and I'm not quite there yet, but the Old Testament is full of things that I think completely laid the foundation for the patriarchy that we're living in right now, and I think it deeply affected how women are treated today, how they're written about in the Old Testament. And one of the things is just the idea of what it means to be a woman is the way that they lay it out in the Old Testament is very, it's difficult because women, on the one hand, we're described as being very, you know, not as intelligent as men, weak, over emotional, sometimes sex crazed. And while the men are supposed to be smart and strong and sort of take care of us, and we're supposed to follow, and they're supposed to lead. But then on the other hand, if you happen to be a really attractive woman, like these 5 women were powerful women because they were supposedly very beautiful, then it was a different story. Then it was, men, watch out, these women, you know, can manipulate you with their beauty, and they're super dangerous, and they can manipulate you to get whatever they want. And then worst of all, they could possibly embarrass you, which seems like that's the biggest fear for the men. And so I started thinking about it as if the beauty for these 5 women was sort of like their superpower, because a woman in those days really didn't have much of a way to get what they wanted. If it was, you know, they were very isolated in their homes and didn't have much power in any other way. But these women were able to do amazing things, whether they were considered to be villains or heroes, or which side you were on and who you worshiped, it depends. But so I don't know, I just find them fascinating. And so I picked them, and I just thought it would be interesting because you see so many stained glass windows of men, saints and things like that, but there aren't really very many about women heroes that are strong women and were able to use whatever resource they had to get what they wanted. And that's another problem is being a woman today, is you're kind of demonized if you use looks to get what you want. Everyone thinks you're a terrible person, you shouldn't do that. But then on the other hand, if you're not attractive enough, everyone complains about that. And you have to look this way or that way. And just these opposing ideas of being a woman make it, they kind of make it so that we're less than human, because men don't have that. And just all these ideas that are completely opposite, it's very confusing. And I think it makes us seem like we're not entirely full human beings. And I just think it's important for people to realize where those ideas came from, and that they're not true. It's just because these things have been written into our history and have shaped everything. So I guess that's it.
Well, I mean, I love the story that you're telling, not just of these women, but how you're telling it. Traditionally in churches, you don't see many women in stained glass windows, because of the story,
Weak ones who were so subservient and so holy.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So you're subverting that, by this presentation of these women. And no, it's really, it's clever and intelligent all around. And so,
I won't go that far. Thank you.
It is. But so, kind of a next, along with the window, who, who are your artistic and cultural heroes, influences? Yeah, how have they influenced your work?
Well, I don't feel like I've ever had like a direct, where I'm consciously getting ideas from certain painters. I have painters that I really admire for different reasons, but I don't know, it's never been like a conscious thing. But I've always loved the surrealists. So like Leonora Carrington, I love her work. And Georgia O'Keeffe I like her work a lot too. She does amazing things, but just that she did what she wanted to do and painted what she wanted. And it was very jarring at the time to paint the detailed large images that hasn't really been done before. And she didn't care that she was, that maybe wasn't popular right away. And she did whatever she wanted. And she's just a very strong personality. And nowadays I really like Lisa Yuskevich. I love her work. So I kind of fell in love with her work when I was in art school in New York. So I'd go see her work. And I just think she's also an awesome person, because she gets a lot of flack for painting, overly sexed women, and people make all kinds of judgments because she's a woman and they think it's not feminist. And I think it's great that she just, does. Women are complicated. It doesn't have to be a certain way to paint women. And I admire her for that. And I guess culturally, all the good ones, Gloria Steinem, Margaret Sanger, AOC, strong women pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking, besides painting, there's also like sculptors, Edmonia Lewis. And I'm trying to think, there were a couple of, around the same time that she was creating, that were also creating these strong women, and that weren't seen before. So I'll have to think about that and get back to you, but something to definitely look at. Absolutely. Awesome. And I think this question, I was originally going to ask you, Palmer, but I think it's really for both of you. How do you balance your art practice and everything you do, the research that you do, creating the work, motherhood, and being a strong feminist? How do you balance that now and before the pandemic, just as an artist?
Take it away, Elisa.
Pre-pandemic, it didn't feel as hard. It was getting a lot of help, which I think it takes a community to raise the kids, right? Yeah. Now I don't know. Now it's become way more complicated, but it's also been really good. I've had my daughter in the studio with me a lot during all of this, and it's interesting to hear her feedback, to make art with her, to have her. We would, at the very beginning of the pandemic, take walks around the neighborhood, and she'd photograph flowers and photograph trees and different things, and I'd paint from them, or we'd paint together, like some like almost like a still life from these photographs. And it's definitely influenced the way I'm making work.
My kids are also getting more involved in my work too. Edie wanted me to tell everybody, I don't know who she thinks I'm presenting this to, but the world. I think she thinks it's like everyone in the world. She was like, make sure you tell them that it was my idea to continue the black stained glass lines into the grass kind of green area. And I'm like, all right.
That's important.
Very proud of that. Yeah. Yes. And then my son has been requesting art lessons. So we've been also doing some still life work.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think in the beginning it was hard because we didn't have anyone help. Thank God now we have someone 3 days a week to do Zoom school with them. Otherwise I would go crazy. But I think, I don't know, it hasn't been that different. It's just, I'm used to having most of my day completely alone. So it's a little hard for me to have people in my space. Most people are feeling really isolated and sad that they're alone, but I'm kind of like, get the hell out of my space. I want to be alone.
I would agree with you with that.
Yeah, so
can I just go hide out, please?
Yeah, it's really hard.
All day.
The studio's in my house. I mean, it's sort of like below our house in an extra garage that we had, but sometimes I wish it was Elisa's studio.
Yes, I'm able to.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I was rotating days with my husband and he would work from my studio, but now he doesn't want to work from there. So I think it's just too difficult with internet connections.
Oh.
So, but our schedule is even crazier now because my daughter is back to school 2.5 hours a day.
Oh,
so somebody has to drop her off in the middle of the day and then pick her up.
Horrible.
Like I'd rather just have her on Zoom all day. So I don't know. But
like you said, artists are adaptable.
I figure it out.
Yep, exactly. So moving a little bit from motherhood, and I have to ask this question, for both of you. I mean, I kind of know Palmer's question. Well, I kind of know the answer, but did you consider the location or think about the location, especially of Palmer's works, Dangerous Women, above a store that says Cox menswear?
How great was that? That was just a completely happy accident. I didn't realize it. I'd forgotten that. I knew it was menswear something, but I'd somehow forgotten that it was Cox menswear. So, I mean, when I went to install, I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome. It's just hilarious that the word cock is a loaded word. And then having these like strutting women above it,
yes,
with their rays of power. Like, I don't know. I couldn't ask for a better second, lower floor, I guess. It was perfect. Yeah.
No, it's definitely been interesting how, like, even photographing any of the work with that sign there and thinking about it. And it's been interesting how, like, just over these two pieces, Renee interpreting the window as like a cage, and then Palmer interpreting it as stained glass. And then, yes, the context of the sign and how that relates. And my guess would be Renee thought about more the colors from the street and maybe less the sign. And I wonder how future artists will interpret
it. Could get crazy.
Space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So Elisa, how has the window art project, like for you, been helpful to your own art practice?
I guess mainly it's helped me stay in touch with the art community where I would normally be out at openings or having studio visits. It's kind of kept me in some sort of dialogue with what other people's work, like what's developing in their work during this time, rather than keeping me so isolated. So that's been the main thing for me. And then also just the feedback about the projects that have been installed. But I guess it's creating a line for me to like reach out to people that I might not otherwise reach out to right now, and a way to have a dialogue with people who are making all sorts of different kinds of work and seeing what they're doing during this time.
Definitely. I mean, and even your own work, since you had, put your own work up there initially, Was that the first time you had painted on, did you say, was it Mylar or?
It was vellum, and
oh, okay.
I'd done very small sketches on vellum and Dular in the past, but nothing of that scale. And I don't think I'd ever used oils on it. So that was interesting, and like hanging a bunch of sheets of this and seeing who knew what was going to happen or how it would work. And it was interesting living with that piece in my space, because I was looking at every day from the reverse side. So it was like the pressed layers. It was almost the opposite colors of potentially what was on the outside. And seeing it lit that way from the back was interesting. Just, I set up a treadmill in my studio, and so I'm jogging, basically looking at the back of that right now. I'm looking at the back of Palmer's wood pieces every day, which is funny. She like sketched on the back, so there's actually work back there that I'm looking at.
Yeah, I did Delilah's head twice, stupidly. I was like, this seems so familiar. Well, I didn't realize I did it twice. So yeah, so one of them's on there in the back.
Oh, you never know like why we do the things that we do. Not stupid at all.
Yeah.
You're an artist. That's what you do.
Brain, mom brain, I don't know.
So what is the future of the window art project? How many artists do you have lined up? And do you mind telling us who they are so far, if you have them?
So I have probably 3 or 4 more artists lined up. I think next is going to be Sydney Croskery.
Oh, good. Yay.
Familiar with her work. I think she's also doing something kind of on panel, but it'll be an abstract piece. I'm really excited about that. I have her, I think Nellie King Solomon. I don't know if you're familiar with her work.
I think I heard the name.
She showed at Uchi Projects, like probably their opening show, and then she has work up right now at the Scottsdale Museum of Contemporary Art in Arizona. So I think she's going to do a piece, and then over the summer, I'm not sure, but I know starting in August, I think Virginia Brosman is going to have a piece up. And then an artist local to me in the South Bay, Adriana Loba, who's she's not so much part of like what I would probably say like contemporary LA like art scene, but more of like a local artist here. And I've known her for years. She's Brazilian. She does a lot of like sort of very like happy feeling. I feel like it'll be a good like end of summer piece that she's going to do for the window. So.
Oh, great. And I'm sorry, were you going to continue?
No, I was going to say, I mean, I'm going forward from there. I don't know. I've been kind of reaching out to other artists that I'm hoping. I've been talking to Kim McCarty. I think her work would be great.
I want Kelly to do it too.
And Kelly Brumsfield, I think her work would be great.
Oh yeah.
I've kind of been talking to different people, but a lot of people are like, I don't know what my timeline is, because it is a big commitment to make something that size. And it, you'd have to like make it to the space. So we'll see. But I'm definitely open for, if people are interested in proposing a piece, I'd love to hear from people.
Oh, awesome. And it just occurred to me, I think we last saw each other maybe in Virginia studio.
I think so.
Yeah.
At one of her open studios back when she was in Inglewood.
Yeah. Gosh. Like when we could see people in person.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wish I had somehow been able to like buy that building when it went up for sale way back then. God knows what it's worth now. But before she had to move out, that was such an amazing, like the back house and then those front window spaces.
Yeah, definitely. I have a couple more questions, and then we have a question from somebody in the audience. And if anybody else has any questions, please feel free to put them in chat. And for the artist. Let me see. And then Palmer, talk about like what are you working on now? Aside from the project, and what are your plans for the future?
Well, I guess right now I'd sort of been working on and off on this other piece of Jezebel. She's one of the 5 women, but I find her, she's just very fascinating to me, because you always hear it's sort of a derogatory thing to it's like a bad name for a woman is like a Jezebel, but really, I mean, depending on what side you're on, she was fighting for her own religious beliefs, which were, you know, she believed in a goddess and multiple gods. And so she was doing just what the other side was doing, but she's, you know, demonized because she's not Semitic. But anyway, so I did, and she also had the most violent death in the Bible ever. She, I don't know if you know, but she was thrown out the window by her own, you know, people that worked for her, thrown out the window, trampled by horses, eaten by dogs. And that this is, well, the people that pushed her out the window all went inside to feast. And then someone's like, oh, you know, we should bury her. She was a queen. And so they go out to find her, and the only thing that's left are the soles of her feet and hands, and her skull. So I did a painting about that too. I'm getting sidetracked now. So anyway, I just finished up this piece about Jezebel. And I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing next. I think I kind of want to do something about the rape of the Sabines, because that's just fascinating. I know it's been done ad nauseum, but I did
a piece of that years ago. Or I have the little Rubens in the background of the painting.
Yeah, it's just still such a, you know, compelling story.
Yes,
so I think I'm going to try to do some kind of twisted version of that. Just making sure that, like, it just is annoying how Livy, the ancient Greek historian, is, you know, like, no, the Sabine women loved their new husbands, and they stopped, you know, the fighting between their new husbands and their dads, and they were perfectly happy and all that. It's like, I just can't. Someone has to set that straight. And I mean, I'm sure lots of other women have, but I feel like I need to say that too. So probably.
And then you also have work going up at a new space.
Oh, so. Yeah, that's true. I have a friend of mine is opening a gallery, and he really liked mostly some pieces that were separate body of work about, well, they're still sort of related. They're about fertility goddesses. So he has a lot of those pieces going up, and a few newer ones too. So that's exciting, but I don't know. I'm probably going to slowly start breaking into what happens after like year one historically, and finding a bunch of things that I want to say about that, I guess, next.
So are you working on a timeline, or like on a historic
women
in history timeline?
Document that's ever growing of basically a timeline of all the things that I think most impacted being a woman today. So I have a long list. Try to keep it, because I'm trying to work historically little by little, because otherwise I'll just get like overwhelmed. So it's easier for me to compartmentalize by the date. So
definitely, it's going to be an amazing series.
Thank you. I don't know. I hope so. There's definitely no shortage of material.
Definitely, yeah, absolutely.
Also, I want more about philosophy, like the ancient philosophers. I mean, still people go on and on about how great they were. I'm like, well, they're not that great when it comes to being a woman. But that's a whole other thing.
Exactly. And, you know, unfortunately, I mean, you know, you will, even through today, you're going to have plenty of subject matter, because not much has changed.
No, it really hasn't.
So it's relevant today, as it's relevant as today as it was then. So
I think
definitely.
So. Yeah.
Yep. So the last question for both of you, what advice do you have for other artists trying to create their own opportunities, kind of in the way that you have been, you know, doing with the window art project and, you know, other things that you've been up to?
I guess for me, I would say just go for it. Like, I probably started talking about this idea with Palmer last May or something, and it took me till October to finally have something to put in the window to show other artists, like, this might be something you'd want to do. So it's definitely a long process, but I feel like now that it's started, it's been totally worth it. And I wish I'd kind of gone for it as soon as I had the idea. So
it's very important to be connected with other artist friends. I feel like as long as you have a little community of artists, there's just so many opportunities to put your art in the world. So talk to your friends, I guess I would say, and, you know, make something happen if you want to. There's always a way to do it.
Definitely. And I agree, like, you know, using whether it's a window or a closet, you know, like I've done before, or, you know, whatever space you have, or outside, like we talked about earlier with the drive-by art, you know, projects. It's like, because we are adaptable and because, you know, we figure things out, like, you know, Elisa said, you know, it's like, you know, just do it. I mean, that's like, if we don't do it, then it doesn't happen. So no, I definitely agree. Lauren asked, and you may have kind of answered this already. I think this is for Palmer. Are there plans for more women windows? They're so rich and inspiring. Thank you, Palmer.
Thank you. I don't know. I mean, Elisa said that maybe we would do it again, like keep doing it, cycling through, you know, she'll add more people, and then maybe we'll do like a second round or something. I would love that. I would think that would be great idea.
Yes, I would love to have Palmer do another piece for the window.
Yeah, it would be fun. So yeah, I hope so.
And I could see it going in other spaces.
Yeah. I'd love to see what you do next too. It would be fun. The mountains are so beautiful.
I keep thinking, like, how could I take the vellum or some similar material and mount it to create some sort of screens that would be sort of archival. I don't know how that would work, but that's something I've been thinking about, like sort of almost like a window screen that you'd have in your house to divide the room.
Ooh, I like that idea.
Yeah.
I need a fabricator to help me.
I'm a pretty good builder.
I need, Palmer probably would have suggestions how I can do this.
Yeah.
Palmer, in fact, like after the window, you know, the windows come down, I can see you making like that kind of, what is that? What's it called?
Screen of some kind?
Yeah. And, you know, you can have it as an installation where people, you know, would look through, you know, like you've shared pictures of looking through.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm almost thinking like
I had to put my head in.
Yeah.
Look through pictures.
Like I was thinking Annie Lepin had a piece that I'm picturing for a show that Virginia Brosma put together, where it was like her pieces in the middle of the room. I could see something like that where with Palmer's.
Definitely. I think there's another life to it after the window.
It was great. It was really fun for me. So I've never really done anything like that. I'm always just on canvas, you know. So it was challenging, but it was fun. I love figuring things out like that.
And yeah, I mean, you did a great job, especially
Renee's work and Elisa's work. So it's just cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, totally.
Oh no.
Especially what?
Oh no. Like especially seeing it at night. I mean, you know, you had everything planned with the light coming through.
I think it's better at night. That was when I saw it at night. I was like, wow, because I didn't know how bright it would be. I thought maybe it was going to be too dim, but I could see it from like 10 blocks away, and I was like, whoa, that's it.
There it is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Are there any more questions from anybody in the audience? And you know, let me just see, since it's on Facebook Live, if anybody has asked any questions there. Let me see. Let's see. Just checking. Just a comment from Avila Huerta Priscilla. Can't believe it's almost coming to an end. How long is it up?
It's,
I don't know.
It's going to be up, I guess, probably through the first week of April.
Oh, okay. So still another week. And it's on the corner of, what are the cross streets that people can drive by?
Manchester Boulevard and Market Street.
Yeah, and if you look up 200 Manchester, it's Manchester Avenue, right? Is it Avenue?
Boulevard. Yeah,
Boulevard.
Right in Inglewood. So drive by anytime, you know, to see it. You can't miss it above Pox Menswear.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's also just such a funny shaped building. Like it's just like so cylindrical. It's like
yes.
a tower.
And I think there's other buildings in the area that mimic it.
Oh,
there's like a couple that it must have been like a style at the time.
Probably the same architect working on it.
Yes.
The same builder. Yep. Cool. I don't think we have any more questions, or is there anything else you'd like to add, or?
I just say it's been wonderful working with Palmer, and thanks for hosting us. This has been
you're
great.
welcome. You're welcome.
Thanks for hosting us. And Elisa, thank you for having me in your windows. Sorry about the light missing.
I don't mind at all.
Okay.
Have your pizza.
Yeah.
Well,
and I have lots of other windows and a lot of light in there. It's okay.
Yeah.
And congratulations to both of you. No, it's really great. And, you know, like I said, I mean, I love seeing these alternative opportunities to show art. So anytime we can do that is fantastic.
Good to see who's next.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, and I guess I'd also say if there's anyone out there listening that has ideas and is interested, like hit me up on Instagram, message me, or on Facebook. And
yeah,
I'm definitely interested in proposals for the space.
Awesome. And it's Elisa John's Art. Sorry about that.
I think it's Elisa John's for Instagram and Facebook, I'm sure. I think. I don't know what my handle is.
And Palmer's is at Palmer Earl.
Palmer Earl _art. Is
I think mine's just Elisa John's because Elisa's a fairly unusual first name, so I didn't have to do that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for being here, and thank you again, Palmer and Elisa. It was such a great conversation. We can't wait to see what else is going to be in the window.
Yeah.
All righty. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.